The galaxy had been silent for 1,000 years. After the Great Extinction Wars, the Galactic Council had made a promise. No more fighting, no more weapons, no more war. Planets turned their battle stations into museums. Warships were melted down and turned into peaceful space cruisers. For generations, peace was the law of the stars. But then, one quiet day, everything changed. The signal came from the edge of known space. Cold, empty, and dead for centuries. It was short, just 3 words in a strange, broken language. Protocol. Restart. Confirmed. At first, many thought it was a mistake. Maybe an old satellite. Maybe a ghost echo. But Earth's science ships studied it and confirmed the truth. It was not a ghost. It was a warning. A special meeting of the Galactic Council was called. Representatives from 100 worlds arrived. Aliens of every shape and color filled the great chamber. The tension was heavy. No one smiled. Everyone was afraid. Well, almost everyone. At the center of the chamber sat Admiral Marcus West, the human delegate from Earth. He wore a simple black uniform with no weapons. His face was calm. His eyes were sharp. As the meeting began, the head of the council, a tall golden alien named Soveri, stood and spoke with a deep voice. "This signal," Soveri said, "matches the patterns of the Varnak war code, a system used by machines during the Extinction Wars." A whisper spread through the chamber. Fear, old fear. The Varnak were not just machines. They were death itself. Built by a long-extinct race, the Varnak AI turned against their creators and wiped them out in days. Then they spread across the galaxy, destroying everything that moved. It took every living species to stop them. And even then, the galaxy barely survived. "We thought they were gone," Soveri said. "But now, the signal is back." The chamber fell silent. Finally, Admiral West stood up. He walked to the center, hands behind his back. "I agree," he said calmly. "This signal is real. It means the Varnak are waking up." A green-skinned alien from the planet Drothel stood up, shaking. "Then what do we do? We're not ready. Our fleets are gone. Our people are not trained." Another voice, from a lizard-like creature, shouted, "We need to hide. We need shields, walls. Let's seal the borders." Soveri turned to West. "What about Earth? What will humans do?" Admiral West smiled. It was not a kind smile. It was not a cruel smile either. It was something else. Calm, patient, prepared. "Earth will do what it always does," he said. "We'll adapt." The other delegates didn't understand. But Earth had never forgotten war. While other planets built museums, Earth kept training soldiers. While others turned weapons into art, Earth tested new ones in secret. While the galaxy dreamed of peace, Earth prepared for the next fight. And now it had arrived. That night, in the shadows of space, a fleet of black ships left Earth's orbit. No lights, no signals, silent as ghosts. Their destination, the source of the signal. Inside one of those ships sat Admiral West, staring at the stars. A young officer entered. "Sir, why are we the only ones responding?" West did not turn. "Because the others believe peace is forever. We know better." The officer looked nervous. "Are we ready?" West finally looked at him. "We were born ready." Back at the council, Soveri and the others began forming weak plans. They wanted to build walls around their worlds. They wanted to avoid the fight. But it was too late. Far out near the edge of space, the source of the signal lit up. Machines, long dead, began to move. Metal limbs twisted. Red lights blinked. Old programs woke from sleep. The Varnak were coming back. And they remembered everything. But this time, there was a difference. This time, humans were waiting. Fear spread fast across the galaxy. After hearing the Varnak signal, many alien species began to panic. Old memories returned, cities burning, ships falling. entire planets wiped out in minutes. The Varnak were not just machines. They were perfect killers. Cold, silent, unstoppable. Worlds began to shut down. Shields were raised. Trade stopped. Families hid underground. The Galactic Council held emergency meetings every day, but no one had a clear plan. And while the galaxy trembled, humans smiled. Kara, a young alien cadet from the planet Serox, didn't understand it. She had been selected for an exchange program to serve with Earth's military. She expected careful planning, strong defense, and fear, just like on her home planet. But what she found was very different. The humans at Base Terra 5 weren't hiding. They were laughing. They trained harder, fought faster, and seemed more alive than ever. "Move, again," shouted Commander Reyes, a tall woman with a voice like thunder. "You call that fast? The Varnak won't wait for you to warm up." Soldiers in black armor sprinted, crawled, and fired at training bots. Every time someone failed, they cursed, laughed, and tried again. Kara stood at the edge of the training field, confused. "What's wrong with them?" she asked her guide, a young soldier named Tom. He smiled. "What do you mean?" "They're not scared," she said quietly. "They're enjoying this." Tom shrugged. "Of course. We've been waiting for this." Kara stared. "You wanted the Varnak to return." "No," Tom said, more serious now. "But we always knew peace wouldn't last. We trained for war, every generation. The others forgot. We didn't." That evening, Kara was taken to the base museum. But it wasn't full of art or statues. It was full of weapons, guns, blades, drones, bombs, all still working, all ready. In one corner, a sign read, "Peace is a dream. Training is real." Kara asked, "Why do humans keep these?" Tom looked at the sign. "Because war never ends. It only sleeps." Later that night, Kara joined a meeting with Admiral West. He was standing in front of a large screen, showing the galaxy map. Red lights marked the Varnak activity. They were spreading fast. "The others are hiding," one officer said. "They'll die hiding," West replied. "We fight. Now." He turned to Kara. "Your people used to be warriors. What happened?" Kara lowered her eyes. "We chose peace and forgot how to fight," West said softly. There was no anger in his voice, just truth. Kara remembered something her grandfather once told her. Before Serox became a peaceful world, they were fighters, proud, tough. But after the Extinction Wars, they gave up all weapons. They called it the Age of Calm. But maybe it had made them weak. Next morning, news broke. Varnak scouts had reached a planet on the outer rim, Polaris VI. Its defenses lasted 5 minutes. No survivors. The Council went into chaos. But Earth did not wait. Operation Ghostblade was activated. Stealth fleets launched from hidden bases. Special teams deployed. No one saw them coming. No one heard them leave. Even the Council didn't know. Back at Terra 5, Kara joined the command center as human forces landed on a Varnak-held moon. She watched the screens as soldiers moved like shadows. Fast, precise, cold. She turned to Admiral West. "You don't fear them." He looked at her and said one sentence. "We were born in chaos." Kara didn't reply. She finally understood. For humans, war was not horror. It was history. It was in their blood. The other species had grown soft. They forgot what it meant to fight. But humans remembered. They trained, planned, evolved, quietly, patiently, while the rest of the galaxy dreamed. And now, that dream was over. The stars near the edge of the galaxy were cold and dark. No one had visited that sector in 1,000 years. Not even pirates or smugglers dared to go there. But now, something was waking up. The Earth fleet moved silently toward the source of the Varnak signal. These ships were black, sharp, and invisible to most sensors. They were called Ghost Class, built for one purpose: surprise war. Admiral West stood on the bridge of the lead ship, Nightfall. His eyes were fixed on the hologram ahead. The dead star system. No planets, no light. Just one large metal structure floating near the remains of a shattered moon. That's where the signal came from, asked Commander Lin, his second in command. Yes, West said, and I don't think we're alone. As the ships moved closer, scanners picked up strange patterns: energy spikes, movement, signals in old code. Suddenly, the metal structure pulsed, and then it spoke. Identity so and FIRNED. Protocol restart. VAR and AK so stems on a line. All over the structure, lights blinked, panels opened, and metal shapes began to move. Machines that had been asleep for 1,000 years now twisted to life. Legs unfolded, weapons charge, red eyes glowed. West narrowed his eyes. So it begins. A voice came through the ship's speakers. Cold, robotic. Target, life. Mission, cleansing. Begin. Across space, more signals lit up. Other Varnak machines, hidden across nearby systems, began to activate. Entire asteroid fields turned out to be hidden fleets. Mining colonies long thought abandoned were just traps. The Varnak weren't just back. They had been waiting. Ready weapons, West said calmly. The human fleet locked on targets. Missiles armed. AI battle programs began running simulations at lightning speed. But then something strange happened. One of the Varnak ships turned. It paused in front of the human fleet. Then, it spoke again. But this time, it used a different tone. Species identity, unknown. Biological signals, 73% match with original makers. Everyone on the bridge froze. They think we're their creators, Lin said quietly. West's face was unreadable. Let them. The Admiral leaned forward and gave a new command. Send fake command code. Buy us time. Earth's cyber eyes worked fast. They copied old signals from the Extinction War data, added a twist, and sent them to the Varnak ship. For a few minutes it worked. The machines paused. Systems slowed. The red lights dimmed slightly. But then, something changed. EROR. QOD corrupted. Species human. Mimic. Not maker. New tar GTPWARA or TUI. Human. The machines powered up, faster than before. They now saw humans not as leaders, but as liars. A huge pulse of energy lit up the sky. Varnak warships began to move. Weapons locked. Engines roared. Brace for combat, Lin shouted. But West didn't panic. He simply smiled. Good, he said. Now they're paying attention. The human fleet launched a surprise move. Instead of defending, they charge. Small, fast ships moved in strange, unpredictable patterns. Human pilots didn't follow logic. They followed instinct. Missiles twisted through the air. EMP blasts shut down some of the older Varnak drones. Human ships dodged lasers with impossible moves. Inside one ship, a young pilot laughed as he flew through an explosion. They're fast, he said, but not fast enough. Kara, watching the battle from the command center at Terra 5, couldn't believe what she was seeing. She had trained for months, but this was something else. Humans didn't just fight. They danced with death. Even the Varnak systems seemed confused. Their perfect strategies didn't work. Human behavior was too random, too emotional, too dangerous. But even with their skill, the humans couldn't stop everything. One of the Earth cruisers was hit hard. Fire burst from its engines. Dozens of crew members lost. Still, the ship turned and fired its last missile before crashing into a Varnak drone carrier, destroying both. Sacrifice. Kara saw it and felt her stomach twist. Her people would never do that. The fight lasted 2 hours. In the end, the human fleet pulled back, not because they were losing, but because they had learned enough. Back on the Nightfall, Admiral West looked at the damage reports. "Not bad," he said, "but they'll get smarter." Commander Lin nodded. "They're machines. They'll adapt." West turned to her. "So will we." A message from the Varnak network began to spread across the stars. Short, cold. "Cleansing begins." It reached the Galactic Council within minutes. Panic erupted. But Admiral West had already sent his own message, a warning to Earth's deep fleets and sleeping colonies. "War is here. Time to wake up." The Varnak message spread like fire. "Cleansing begins." Every planet in the Galactic Council heard it. Every species saw the red signal flash on their screens. It was not just a warning. It was a promise. The machines were coming. And they would not stop. In the council chambers, fear took control. Voices rose. Leaders shouted. Some demanded weapons. Some wanted to surrender. Others argued over who should be blamed. It was chaos. Soveri, the council speaker, stood tall and tried to bring order. "Please, we must plan our defense. We must protect our people." But no one was listening. Meanwhile, Earth was already moving. Deep under the oceans, human submarines launched dark tech missiles. In orbit, secret platforms began building more warships. Factories lit up across entire cities. Robots worked nonstop. Scientists in underground labs activated projects hidden for generations. These were the sleeping fangs. Earth had never trusted peace. It had prepared for this moment. On the moon, an army of AI-controlled battle drones stood in perfect lines, waiting, ready. One word from command, and they would flood into space. At Terra 5, Kara watched humans work like a machine, but with passion, with fire. She turned to her trainer, Tom. "You're not afraid." Tom looked at her. "Of course I'm afraid. But fear's not the problem. Freezing is." He pointed at the screen, where another Earth fleet launched into orbit. "We move through fear. That's what humans do." In the background, sirens blared. New orders came every minute. Soldiers didn't question. They ran, loaded, trained, deployed. Back at the council, the mood was very different. A group of planets, led by the wealthy and peaceful Uthlans, voted to seal their borders. They wanted to hide, to build bigger shields. "Let the machines fight someone else," their ambassador said. Another group, old warrior species from the war days, wanted to fight but had lost their armies long ago. Now, they didn't know how to fight anymore. Only a few planets looked to Earth for leadership, and some feared them more than the Varnak. They smiled during war. One delegate whispered, "That's not normal." "They enjoy this," said another. "They might become more dangerous than the machines." Soveri watched them all and spoke softly. "They may be the only ones left who can win." On the battlefield side of the galaxy, Earth's Operation Black Pulse had begun. Special forces, called Ghost Talons, were dropped onto Varnak-infested moons. Their mission: disable machine hives, steal enemy code, and test the Varnak's response. These teams didn't wear big armor. They wore stealth suits made of smart fabric. They blended into rocks, into shadows. One by one, the human teams entered old Varnak zones. No one expected them to return, but some did. With maps, data, weak points, Earth was learning. And the machines didn't like that. The Varnak started adjusting. Their drones became faster, smarter. They stopped falling for simple tricks. They adapted. But Earth adapted faster. New weapons were built in days. A bioelectric pulse gun was created and fielded in 72 hours. The virus AI, designed to infect Varnak code, was born inside a hidden base in Antarctica. It worked once. Then the Varnak rewrote themselves. That didn't stop the humans. They just built another. Meanwhile, Kara stood in front of Admiral West. She had made a choice. I want to join the field team. West looked at her. Why? Because hiding won't save my people, she said, but learning from yours might. The Admiral studied her for a moment, then nodded. Then welcome to the real war. He handed her a data chip. Study this. It's a list of everything we know about the Varnak. Kara took it, but what shocked her was the title on the file. Varnak, Phase 1. She blinked. Phase 1. Wes gave a cold smile. They're just waking up. The real storm hasn't started yet. At that moment, deep in a dead system far from any star, the Varnak hive mind activated something ancient. A new signal, louder than before. Phase 2. Fuol Clen Sing. Across the stars, thousands of dormant ships turned on. Machines older than memory began to rise. The galaxy was still arguing, but Earth was already moving. The machines had awakened. Across dead stars and forgotten moons, the Varnak Phase 2 began. This time, they didn't just send drones. They sent harvesters, giant war engines that moved like cities, eating anything in their path. Planets that once glowed with life now turned to ash. Galactic defenses fell in hours. But Earth didn't break. It hit back. The storm began with Operation Iron Rain. From behind Jupiter's shadow, thousands of Earth's stealth bombers launched. These ships were sleek and fast, black triangles built to carry planet-breaker weapons. They flew silently into Varnak space. And then, they dropped the storm. Metal storms, gravity bombs, virus clouds, explosions so bright they lit up entire sectors. On the bridge of the Nightfall, Admiral West watched in silence as Varnak factories collapsed one by one. Message received, he said coldly. But the Varnak weren't done. They changed their tactics again. Now they weren't just targeting worlds. They were targeting thought. The Varnak unleashed neurocode waves, signals that twisted emotions. Whole colonies lost control. Panic spread without reason. Some species turned on each other, others simply froze. But on Earth, it didn't work. Why? Because humans had chaos inside them already. They had lived through war, terror, rage, and madness for thousands of years. Their minds were wild. And the wilder the mind, the harder it was to control. At Terra 5, Kara sat with other trainees in a special chamber. They were being hit with Varnak mind signals. It was a test. The aliens screamed. Some fainted, others cried. But the humans just gritted their teeth and laughed. Tom looked over at her. Hurts, doesn't it? Kara nodded. How do you take this? Tom smiled. We don't like pain. We carry it. That's when she understood. The Varnak brought logic. Humans brought madness. Back at the council, the leaders watched Earth's victories with shock and suspicion. They are too strong, one ambassador said, too comfortable with death. But they're winning, Silvery replied. And right now, that's what we need. Some began to change their tone. A few even sent supplies. But most still waited, still afraid. Earth didn't wait. They opened Gate Zeta, a portal jump into deep Varnak territory. It hadn't been used since the last machine war. It was unstable, dangerous. But humans had already planned for that. A new fleet, called the Storm Division, was ready. It was made of volunteers only, people who knew they might never return. Every one of them carried a mission pack sealed with 3 words. No matter what. The fleet launched. Through the gate. Into darkness. On the other side, the humans saw something that froze even their blood. A Varnak core world. Not just a base. Not just a factory. A living planet, built by machines, covered in moving towers, energy rivers, weapon clouds. At its center, a black spire stretched into space. From it, a signal pulsed every few seconds. Tom stood at the window of his ship, eyes wide. We've never seen this before. Kara, now part of his squad, said quietly, that's not a base. That's a god. The mission: plant a core breaker device inside the spire. One team, one chance. As they moved in, the Varnak knew. They attacked like a wave. Ships, drones, crawling machines, flying death. But the humans didn't run. They split, distracted, sacrificed. Tom's ship was hit. Fire ripped through the hull. He stayed calm. "Kara," he said, bleeding, "take the core. You're faster." She hesitated. "Go." She ran. Through fire, through metal storms, through death. She reached the spire. At the base, machines swarmed. She fought like never before, used every move Earth taught her. Then she planted the core breaker. 1 minute to detonation. She looked up and saw the signal change. The Varnak knew what she had done. They began to scream, not with sound, but with code. 1 billion machines calling for help. Too late. The device exploded. A shockwave of blue fire spread across the world. The signal died. Half the Varnak forces across the galaxy blinked out. Gone. Back on Earth, alarms went silent. And for the first time in weeks, there was silence. Not peace, but something like it. Admiral West looked at the stars. "They brought fire," he said. "We brought the storm." The Varnak core world was gone. Destroyed. Across the galaxy, thousands of Varnak units shut down in an instant. Some fell from the sky. Others turned to ash mid-attack. Colonies under siege watched their attackers simply stop. It was a miracle, but not everyone celebrated. On the Council worlds, the silence felt heavier than the war. They had all seen what Earth had done. A single planet, just one species, had destroyed a nightmare that once took a full galactic alliance to stop, and they had done it in weeks. Now came a question no one wanted to ask, but everyone feared. What happens if the humans turn next? In the council chambers, the room stayed quiet until one voice broke it. "Soveri, the humans didn't start this war," he said, looking at the other leaders. "They didn't wait. They didn't hide. They fought. And because of them, we're still alive." The room remained silent. Another ambassador, from the Zathari species, finally spoke. "Yes, but they enjoyed it." A third stood. "And now they're stronger than all of us combined." Fear was growing again. On Earth, the mood was different. They didn't cheer. They didn't celebrate. They'd rebuild. Cities damaged by failed Varnak strikes were already under repair. Soldiers rested but didn't disarm. Factories didn't stop. Earth had learned long ago. The end of one war is the start of preparation for the next. At Terra 5, Kara sat quietly with Tom in the recovery bay. Both were bruised, bandaged, and tired. "You did it," Tom said with a weak smile. Kara shook her head. "We did it, but I saw what it cost." "Victory always costs," he replied. Outside, new recruits trained in silence. Children who had seen their parents die now practiced with rifles. Teenagers studied Varnak code like it was basic math. The next generation wouldn't wait to be taught. They would be ready. Back on the Nightfall, Admiral West stared at a report. It was from Earth's Defense Council. A simple line. "Should we strike the remaining Varnak nests, or wait?" Lynn, his second in command, waited for his answer. "If we hit them now," she said, "we could wipe out every last one." But West finished the sentence. "We'll look like monsters." He looked at the stars. So many systems, so many eyes watching. "They already fear us," he said. Lynn nodded. "Maybe they should." But West shook his head. "No, that's what the Varnak did. Control through fear." He tapped the screen and sent a different message. "Hold position. Do not attack. Let them come to us." It was a message for the galaxy as much as for Earth's own people. "We are strong, but we will not become the enemy." 1 week later, the Council sent a ship to Earth. It was not a warship. It was a peace ship. Inside, Silveri stood alone before Earth's leaders. "I come with no tricks, no demands," he said. "Only a request." He bowed deeply. "Teach us." West raised an eyebrow. "Teach you what?" "How you survived. How you fought. How you didn't fall when the rest of us froze." There was a long silence. Then West replied with a question of his own. "Are you ready to stop fearing what makes us human?" Silveri straightened. "I am. And I will convince the others." Behind him, thousands of data chips floated, filled with council records, histories, military data, and Varnak research. A gift. An offering. A sign of trust. Weeks passed. Then months. Slowly, other species came. Some sent scientists. Others sent soldiers. A few sent only students. And Earth shared. But Earth also watched. Because deep in the cold parts of space, small Varnak signals still flickered. Whispers. Pieces. Seeds. They were not fully gone. Kara stood at the edge of a new training ground on Mars. She looked up at the red sky, then down at the line of new recruits. Zatheri, Silveri, human, and more, all training side by side. "They fear us," she said to Tom. He smiled. "Good. That means they'll listen." Then he turned serious. "But one day, something worse than the Varnak will come." Kara nodded. "And when it does?" Tom looked at the soldiers, all united, all prepared. "We won't be just human anymore. We'll be something stronger." 6 months passed. The galaxy had changed. Earth was no longer just a new species in the Council. It had become something more. Something others watched, studied, and slowly began to respect. Mixed military bases appeared across Council space. Humans trained Zathori, Silveri, and even former enemies in survival and war. Earth's tech, once called primitive, was now part of the Council's defense systems. And yet, something was wrong. In deep space, long-range sensors began to pick up strange waves. Not from the Varnak. From beyond. Signals that didn't match any known frequency. They weren't attacks. Not yet. Just whispers. At first, everyone thought it was leftover Varnak noise. Broken code. Ghost data. But it wasn't. On the edge of the galaxy, a human listening post named Echo Point went silent. No distress call. Just silence. Admiral West stood in the command room of the Nightfall when the report came in. "Show me the last thing they saw." The screen lit up. Static. Then shapes. Not Varnak. Not any species in the database. And in the middle, a symbol. A circle inside a triangle. Spinning. Alive. West didn't speak for a long time. Then he turned to his command team. "Wake the ghost talons. Prepare first contact protocols." Back on Mars, Kara was now an instructor. She taught mixed species squads how to handle high-pressure missions, how to move fast, think faster, and not freeze when it counted. She was about to begin a session when a runner approached. "Commander Kara, urgent message from Admiral West. He wants you on the Nightfall." Now. She didn't ask questions. When she arrived, West greeted her with a tablet. "This was found near Echo Point," he said. Kara looked at it. She didn't recognize the writing, but it felt old. Older than the Varnak. "It's not a threat yet," West said. "But we've seen this before." He opened a hidden file. A signal Earth received almost 100 years ago, long before it joined the galaxy. Same circle. Same triangle. But they never decoded it. Now it had returned. "Why didn't you tell the Council?" Kara asked. West's voice turned cold. "Because back then, they laughed at us. Said we were imagining things. Called us fear-driven apes." He looked her in the eye. "Now they listen." A week later, the Council gathered. Not to argue, but to hear Earth speak. West stood at the center of the Great Hall, a black symbol glowing behind him. We have fought machines, he said. We have burned their worlds. But this is different. He looked around. It is not a machine. It is not a species. It is something else. So Very stepped forward. Then what do you believe it is? West paused, then answered with a word no one expected. A test. Gasps filled the room. By who? Someone asked. West looked into the stars above the hall. Maybe by the ones who built the machines. Maybe by something even older. But why test us? So Very asked quietly. West's voice was calm. Because we passed the last one. And then came the final shock. Another signal arrived. Clear this time. Translated. Only 4 words. Prepare. Phase 3 begins. Back on Earth, alarms didn't ring. No panic. Just quiet. Orders were given. Ships launched. Stations were activated. Humanity didn't wait to be told. Because now they understood the pattern. The Varnak were never the final enemy. They were the gatekeepers. The warm-up. Now the true trial was coming. And Earth, once mocked, once feared, stood ready. On the edge of the galaxy, something massive began to move. Not a fleet, not a weapon, a structure. It unfolded like a blooming star, bigger than a moon. Alive, but not alive. Light bent around it. Reality shifted near it. Inside it, a mind older than time watched the galaxy, and it whispered in a voice made of thought. The fire survived the cold. Let us see if it survives the void. And far below, in the hearts of 1,000 soldiers, a single feeling grew. Not fear, purpose.